25,000 hours and still counting, the equivalent of nearly 1,500 days and about 3+ years. Starting in 1993, this is the accumulated time that Roger Franklin has spent at Day Kimball Hospital as a volunteer. It's what he has given back to his community, and giving back, or helpfulness, is all part of his DNA, and it started at an early age. Around his 3rd birthday, he was watching Mom as she did a load of wash and was warned to stay away from the wringer-type machine. The desire to help Mom with her task was just too much. His arm was sucked between the rollers, and the ensuing screams brought Mom to the rescue. The incident left an eventual scar that Roger still bears today, but it never dampened his desire to always provide assistance, whether welcomed or not. A move in 1942 brought the Franklin family, Irene, Fred, Roger, brother Charles, and soon after Richard, from Putnam Heights to Woodstock Avenue, the thriving metropolis in the north end of Putnam. And while Roger's desire to always help wasn't diminished, he discovered that some acts of kindness could also add to the piggy bank. Paperboy, selling bait to local fishermen, a 3-hour week of janitorial duties, and selling muskrat pelts to Sears Roebuck and Company were part of his early entrepreneurial skills. The unexpected trap skunk never got skinned or sold.
My aunt had a collection of 1939 World's Fair spoons, and there was one called the Marine Transportation Building. Well, figured my father was in the Navy, I should have that spoon. And unfortunately, I mentioned that fact, which meant that since I wanted it, Roger wanted it, and Charles wanted it. So every breakfast was a hassle over who was going to get the spoon.
Early education was at Israel Putnam School, where Roger's most lasting memory was his time in Gertrude Warner's 1st grade class. He was obviously a favorite student, receiving a signed copy of the famed author's original boxcar children's book. He was also mentioned by name, Roger Franklin Meats and Groceries, in another of her series, and he cherished a special letter from her wishing him a happy birthday. Was Miss Warner clairvoyant? Did she foresee that she and Roger would ultimately share space on the Wall of Honor? Roger's organized sports interests gathered steam in junior high school, while basketball and baseball moved to the forefront as he entered Putnam High. At PHS, he also served as both president of the student council and class president in his senior year. He contends that his selection as class flirt was a setup by his so-called friends. After graduation from Putnam High, disappointment followed, as an application to the U.S. Military Academy at West Point was not accepted. But a catalog from Norwich University in Northfield, Vermont, piqued his interest. A visit with Mom and Dad supplied the final hook, and it was on to Jackman Hall, his residence on campus. Rook Week and the mayhem of being a college freshman at a military school took its toll, and there was a strong desire to return home. However, with a stern message from his dad, who wouldn't hear of it, and the easing of the harassment allowed the Norwich career to continue. Making the basketball team, pledging Sigma Nu fraternity, and eventual promotion to cadet company commander all contributed to a successful graduation from Norwich University. Then came orders to report to active duty at Fort Knox, Kentucky on October 14, 1960. The Kentucky assignment brought about a life-changing experience. While on a social venture, Roger met Ruth York, his future wife-to-be. They continued to date until his release from active duty, agreed to keep in touch and carry on a long-distance relationship, which eventually led to a wedding in June of 1962 and a relocation to Connecticut. Graduation from Norwich and completion of his military assignment also meant it was time to plan for the future. It began with a trip to seek employment or unemployment compensation at the local labor office. Roger's initial interview with the Labor Department resulted in a 90-day temporary placement, which turned out to be the beginning of a 36-year career within the Connecticut Labor Department. Meanwhile, on the home front, son Ross was born in 1965. Ruth continued her teaching in the business department of several area high schools before beginning a 20-year career as a member of the Putnam High School faculty, while Roger continued as an Army reservist for over 25 years, retiring at the rank of colonel. While Roger's resume includes notable high school and college achievements, a distinguished military career, and an extensive association in the employment field, this path alone would probably not merit a position on Putnam High School's Wall of Honor. What took place following retirement is what's notable. When Ruth's health started to wane in the 1990s, it reached a point where hospice services were needed. Roger became so impressed and thankful for how they cared for Ruth in her final days, there was a desire to pay back in some capacity, and where better than Putnam's Day Kimball Hospital. Little did DKH know what was about to be accomplished by releasing the energy that Roger was about to bring. Relying on volunteers has enhanced the services at Day Kimball tenfold.
Well, they get their first pin at 100 hours, and then they get them at 100-hour increments from that point on until they get to 1,000, and then they go to 500-hour increments.
There are many who attain 1,000 and 2,000-hour pins for their accumulated service time, and some who far exceed these totals. But Roger has accumulated over 25,000 hours covering a 21-year period, and the hours are still being accumulated. As the years have passed, his tasks have expanded. While he doesn't spend as much time feeding, singing to, or rocking babies to sleep, offering pastoral support, providing information for living wills, and visiting homes to offer hospice care, a part of the daily 7 a.m. to noon schedule.
The list goes on and on. He has helped in so many ways. A lot of things through hospice. Hospice is near and dear to his heart, and he helps us make memory hearts. He helps to glaze them and put pins on them, spends hours and hours putting those together so that we can give those to the bereaved families at the end of the patient's life. He has run our Friends of Hospice program, Friends of Hospice committee for many years. He was the chair of that committee. They helped with fundraising, raising lots of money that could help our hospice patients, as well as a patient care volunteer who would go right into the patients' homes and sit with the patients. He helped some of those folks with journaling and telling stories about their military careers and, just sitting with folks at the end of their life.
Over the years, these contributions have been recognized and rewarded. Roger received the George Racine Senior Humanitarian Award from the Chamber of Commerce and the Paul Harris Fellow Award from the Putnam Rotary Club. He has also been honored by the New England Patriots for making a positive impact on his community. Additional volunteer involvement includes membership in Putnam's Congregational Church since 1951, where he filled many roles. Serving on the Putnam High School Building Committee, fundraising for the Tree of Life, and assisting with the annual Main Street car cruise are squeezed in to the busy schedule. For relaxation, he maintains his golf membership at Quinnitisset Country Club. Wall of Honor recognition emphasizes the achievements of graduates in various ways. A significant criteria is community contributions and involvement. Roger Franklin has chosen to place emphasis on the volunteer aspect, and it has produced a record that will be hard to surpass. This offers a worthwhile pathway for current students to follow and certainly warrants a deserving place on Putnam High School's Wall of Honor.